Good evening, everyone. It is a real pleasure to welcome you to our Alumni Series 7, Realising Our Potential, From Self to Service, Honouring a Tradition of Compassion. As many of you know, I am serving as acting principal this year, and it has been an extraordinary learning curve. In particular, one that has opened my eyes is to the remarkable impact our alumni continue to have on the life of all our students in CIC Summerhill. Being in the presence of such a diversely talented and deeply committed group of past students, be it in person or online, is truly humbling. Whether through reunions, Realising Our Potential series, chapter gatherings, one-to-one conversations, or the career mentoring programme, every interaction reminds me that we stand on the shoulders of giants. Your stories, your generosity, and your enduring connection to the school shows us what is possible when a community lives its values. Inclusive, excellence, community. Transforming the lives of so many of our young people, and for this we are truly grateful. Since stepping into this role, I have come to appreciate even more the incredible work our Alumni Association does, quietly, consistently, and generously, to support our students and strengthen our school community. The camaraderie, the lifelong friendships, and the pride you carry for CIC Summerhill are powerful reminders of what this institution means to so many. Events like this evening are not simply gatherings. They are opportunities to deepen that affinity and connection. They help us remember that the relationships formed here between students, staff, and peers shape lives long after graduation. They also inspire us as a school community to continue growing from strength to strength. For those who have attended previous series, you will know that CIC Summerhill today looks very different from the school many of you once knew. We now have over 1,155 students, making us one of the largest schools in the west of Ireland. We have proudly advanced in becoming a co-educational school from last September, which has proven to be hugely successful. And our student body is wonderfully diverse, representing over 25 nationalities and languages, a living expression of inclusion and global citizenship. With this confidence and hope, we have developed ambitious plans for the future. We have broken ground on our new extension of our new campus. And recently, we officially installed the new floodlights to the Monsignor Michael F. Devine all-weather facility. This transformative space has already made a significant contribution to the student well-being, physical activity, and community engagement. None of this will be possible without the dedication of the wider Summerhill family. Our teachers, staff, Patron Bishop Kevin Doran, Board of Management, parents, and of course our alumni community. Your support continues to shape the opportunities available to our young people, and we hope you will continue to be part of this exciting journey. Thank you to all those in the planning, organising and facilitation of the evening. In particular, Ms. Dervla Casey, Mr. Kenny Donaher, Edward McDonough, and of course the one and only Mr. Robert Fitzpatrick. A special word of welcome to all our panellists here this evening. Thank you for your time and effort to be with us, and to all of you, both in person or online, who are with us here this evening. We are looking forward to the discussions that will take place. We hope you will enjoy it too. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Ailing. And now we're going to have a few words. Excellent. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. It is wonderful to see so many members of our school community gathered here tonight for this special event. We are especially delighted to welcome back our guest speakers, who have kindly returned to share their experiences and insights with us. This evening is a valuable opportunity to hear directly from former students who once walked the same corridors and sat in the same classrooms, but who have since gone on to pursue a wide range of careers and opportunities. While each journey has been different, what connects them all is the determination, resilience, and willingness to grow that helped shape their success. Often, people see only the achievements, the career, the accomplishments, and the recognition, without seeing the setbacks, uncertainty, and the hard work that took place behind the scenes. Tonight gives us a chance to hear the reality of these journeys in an honest and meaningful way, and I think this is something that all of us can learn from. One of the most inspiring aspects of this event is seeing how many different paths can begin in the same school community. It reminds us that there is no single definition of success and no single route to achieving it. Growth comes from taking opportunities, learning from challenges, and remaining open to new experiences. Events like tonight also strengthen the connection between the past and present of our school community. It is fantastic to see former students returning, not only with a sense of achievement, but also with a willingness to give back by offering advice, encouragement, and perspective to others. Before we begin, I would like to thank our speakers for giving their time to be here this evening. We are extremely grateful for your willingness to speak so openly and share your experiences with us. I would also like to thank the teachers, staff, and organisers who worked hard to make this experience possible. A great deal of preparation goes into events like this, and we truly appreciate all the effort behind the scenes. We are looking forward to an engaging and inspiring event, and I hope everyone enjoys the evening. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for those words, Aline. So yeah, you're very welcome. Everyone's very welcome to the 7th of the Realising Our Potential. It's something that I've had the honour of being involved in the last number of them, and I'd like to thank the Board of Management, the teachers, and everyone here associated in Summerhill asking me to do it again. It's something that I really enjoy, and in particular, I'm looking forward to this evening. I've had the opportunity to speak to the contributors over the last little while to maybe find out a little bit more as to what we're going to talk about tonight. And as Eileen mentioned, the theme tonight is from self to service, knowing a tradition of compassion. And when you listen to the stories that we're going to hear a little bit later on, you'll understand there's a lot of compassion and an awful lot of service. And beside me here is Dr. Conor Kenny, a Rosses Point native who went to Summerhill only a few years ago. It wasn't that long ago. And Conor is currently a GP up in Charlestown. But before then, Conor was with Médecins Sans Frontières. I hope I pronounced that correctly. If I haven't, that is Joan Delaney's fault, who was my French teacher. So I apologise. And that's a fascinating story, by the way. And we'll speak a little bit later about that. We also have then Captain Brian Dunn, and Brian went to Summerhill also here, and he's currently with the Defence Forces, previously with the UN, and his story is pretty amazing as well. Then we have Kieran McHugh down here, and Kieran has so many strings to his bow. I don't know how you find the time to even be here, but probably one of the main reasons that we've invited you here this evening is one of the charitable exploits that you carry, and we'll speak about that later on. And for the first time ever, by the way, we had the first time ever, this gentleman down here, Tom Lynch, yes, it's a great Irish name, but he's come all the way from Nebraska, and he did not go to Summerhill, so make a wish. So this is the first non-past pupil that we've had on this Realising Our Potential. However, he is representing probably arguably the most famous past pupil Summerhill College has ever had, and that is Father Flanagan. For a lot of the people looking in here this evening, and some that are in attendance here this evening, they will remember the Father Flanagan Hall. But Father Flanagan is hugely important to Summerhill College. If you want to come and become a teacher here, you have to know about Father Flanagan. And we're really looking forward, Tom, to hearing more about that. And we've got some ongoing news as we speak, news that may even break tonight. However, Conor, if I could start with yourself. Tell us a little bit about when you were in Summerhill and maybe some of your early memories from here and how you found Summerhill.
Yeah, I was in Summerhill from 97 till 2002, and I had a brilliant time. The friends that I had in that class 1G1, I've still managed to maintain, the majority since all those years. And I've had a lot of positive memories, like, I guess, from my teachers, good relationships with them, but probably the main memories were from sports, like with Tommy McManus doing the Gaelic football. Even though, Robbie, I was terrible at football, but like
Me and you both, that's all right. At least you made the team.
I tried my best, and I think Tommy recognised that, and David Kennedy and the other teachers as well. So yeah, and the friendship that I think I gathered from that was probably the closest friends, and I've been really lucky that has sustained me through my life.
It's funny though, you know, when you're in Summerhill and it's gone in the blink of an eye, really. But
Yeah.
but the friendships that you forge
Yeah.
in secondary school
Yeah.
and in a school like Summerhill, which has a great tradition of compassion and giving
Yeah.
and inclusivity,
Yeah.
that it really does stand.
It really does, like, you know, and I think it's a genuine, you know, it's such a, in some ways, a vulnerable time in your life, and but there's a genuineness as well to the relationships that you form. You really see each other through good times and bad times, and to sustain that time is incredible, and that easily is you know, for me, the best outcome that has come out.
Thanks, Conor. Brian, tell us a little bit about your Summerhill journey.
Thanks, Robert. So I was in Summerhill from 95 to 2000, a little bit before Conor. I do remember him, and he was useless at football from what I remember. But and just to echo what he said, I had brilliant times here. I loved my memories. I loved every day of being in Summerhill, and I still see, you know, we do a lot of team building work in the defence forces, and you have to forge these bonds if you want to operate overseas and different things, and you do that through shared experiences. And you had shared experiences with people for 5 years that you'll never experience anywhere else in life. And I still see a number of classmates from 1F, 2 on a regular basis. And what I find most refreshing is that we've never changed. You know, whether that's because males don't mature. The guys I knocked around with in first year in 1995, I still see to this day, and they're exactly the same. And you can't break that bond from what we have in these days. So I come up here not so regularly, maybe once a year, to do careers talks to the school, to the students, and I love coming up every time. And all the old memories. It's a pity I can't get down to the old building anymore, but it's full of really good memories for me.
But it must make you very proud to see how the school has evolved. I mean, the old building, when you look at it now, like, it is a very grey, dreary building. But and is it I don't know if it's listed or not, I'm not too sure, but like, it was a very cold, damp place when I was in school, and that was back in 1840. No, it wasn't, but it was a long time ago. But the facilities that are here now are second to none.
Yeah, it's lovely to see from a purely selfish defence force point of view. Too many create soft people, so I wouldn't mind seeing a few of these young guys getting back to the old building and a bit of the old rattly windows and the bit that went with it, you know. But yeah, no, the school is advanced. I know Kenny took me to the engineering suite there before I came in. We didn't call it the engineering suite; it was the metalwork room, and it was a land of chaos back in the day. And it's amazing down there. So it's fantastic to see, and long may it continue.
Yeah, I'm nearly afraid, Kieran, to ask you about your memories of Summerhill. This could take a while, but tell us.
I think I was going to remember we had a screening call, someone not suitable for the watershed.
You were here.
I'm the dinosaur of the group. I was here from 89 to 94, and then liked it so much I done 95 again.
Okay.
It was pre-TY. I was only 16 studying for the leaving, so I decided to stay on another year. So it's
Good experience for you?
Yeah, I loved it. As I said, you do feel old when you go to the old building and then you come to the new building and the new building's been demolished and the new building's on it. So you're kind of, how old does that make you feel? But yeah, I can still remember Father Flanagan Hall, the first day you arrive and there's 200 seats, and I think it would have been Eddie Moores and was calling out all the names, and you hear all these names and you're thinking, oh, some of them stick out for different reasons, and then over time you start putting faces to names. And it is like, I spent a lot of time out of Sligo, and then you come back and there is kind of there's definitely that link that you'll be in a business somewhere, in a cafe or somewhere, and you get a nod from a lad that might be 3 years older than you. You wouldn't even looked at back in the day, or wouldn't have gone well. But you just have that connection, and you do meet good friends, and yeah, it was very enjoyable.
Friendship you still have to this day, I'm sure.
Absolutely, yeah. And
Okay.
it's a good all round experience.
Now, I'm going to come back to you shortly, because you still have a very strong connection. Your son goes to school here, isn't that right?
I do. He's, as I said, probably more nervous of this than I am. I have a son in first year. His name is Danny, and I'm not allowed to say any more. But
That's all right. That's fair enough. So you do what you're told.
It is rather weird. As I said, you know, as a parent, you have many bouts of imposter syndrome, and I think when you're sitting at a parent-teacher meeting and you're still nervous, going, why am I nervous? It's still an ordeal you want to get over, even though his parent-teacher meetings went a lot smoother than mine.
Well, I have one memory of a parent-teacher meeting where my poor mother at the time was going around to all the teachers, and with the best will in the world, it wasn't going great until she got to the very last teacher, and I was the last student, and she turned around more in hope than expectation by saying, well, we've kept the best wine till last. And the teacher said, well, unfortunately not in this case. But anyway, I got over that. Tom, it is so good to have you here. You might hand the microphone to Tom there, please. Oh, you have one, sorry. Thank you, Kenny, very, very impressive. So a lot of people that are looking in here, an awful lot of our past students that watch this will be very familiar with Father Flanagan. Some of the students possibly may not know who Father Flanagan was. First of all, we really appreciate you coming all the way from Nebraska to join us here today, and it really is appreciated by everybody, and I know you had a great time today with the students, but can you just share with us who exactly Father Flanagan was?
Father Flanagan was born not too far from here in Leabag by Ballymoe in 1886. His dad was a herdsman, and he lived in a two-room stone cottage with 11 family members, and education was very important to the family. And he had a little promise to be, have a little further education, so the family decided to send him to Summerhill College. And we do have the memories written of Father Flanagan arriving at Summerhill College on the train and walking up the hill here, and how shocked he was because he had come from a little small village, and all of a sudden he was in a big city. There were all these different people and different languages, so he was just amazed when he came to Summerhill College. He had never seen a building that big, and he loved it here. He really excelled at handball and just felt his time here was very important to helping him develop into the person that he became later in life.
Okay, so then we spoke earlier, and his brother, who was a priest, moved to America, and maybe you might share the story with the conversation that he had with his, I think was there 9 children, and is that correct? So you might share that story.
Father Flanagan was here at Summerhill College till 1907, and at that point he was graduating. At the same time, his older brother was going to Nebraska to open a parish. He had been called from Dublin to do that. So there's great discussion in the family, should he come to America at that time. He was 18 years old, and finally the family decided he could come to America. So he joined his brother, and they sailed over and landed at Ellis Island, and he started his life in America. But he always had a very strong connection to Summerhill College. He came back and visited several times. And on his final visit to Ireland in 1946, he met with the past pupils in Dublin. They had a little mini convention there so he could see his old classmates.
So when he moved to America to his brother, that's where he studied to become a priest, isn't that correct?
He started in Omaha, Nebraska. He went to several seminaries. He failed due to poor health. He failed in New York City, failed in Rome. Eventually, he was ordained in Innsbruck, Austria, and at that point came back to Nebraska and then began his ministry of being a parish priest, and then on the side, he began to work with homeless men.
So that's really where he's most famous for, and that's why we would know more of him here, not only a past student, but tell us a little bit about the sort of work that he did back then, and maybe give a sense of the time in America, of what it was like there, and the importance of the work.
When he came to America in 1908, America had a concept called eugenics. Eugenics said certain people are superior to others. New immigrants to America, people coming from Southern Europe, Irish Catholics were considered foreign and not true Americans. And there was great discrimination against someone due to their race or their religion. And when he eventually created his children's home, he wanted to welcome all children because he saw what it was like to be discriminated against. So he created one of the first intentionally integrated communities in America. Decades before the American Civil Rights Movement began with Martin Luther King, Father Flanagan was living that life in Nebraska with the students at Boys Town. And he wanted to help all children, because these were children that were throwaway children, especially boys. Nobody wanted them. They'd been in trouble with the law. They were homeless. So he collected them off the streets and brought them into a home and gave them love and education.
And how many kids were you talking about at any one time?
Once he had his village operating, he had close to 300 children living with him in the village of Boys Town.
So it was an actual village, but obviously lots of houses. And how was that funded? Was that funded by donations?
Strictly through donations, because he wanted to be independent. So we've never been part of the Catholic Church community program. He said they would put parameters on how he could operate. So he created an independent children's home, which remain today. And he had donors all across the United States who supported him.
So we're going to go back there, but one thing that I know you're particularly proud of is that it's still in operation today. And is it helping? Did you mention over 2 million kids?
The charity he created, the ministry of Boys Town, is still in operation today over 100 years later. and it serves over 2 million kids and families every year across America. We have a hospital system, we have counseling programs, we have locations across the United States, locations, national hotline, all different programs aimed at helping kids and families. And it's all based on the tenets of Father Flanagan.
So some of us of a certain age will remember a movie starring Spencer Tracy called Boys Town, and if you haven't seen it, I would highly recommend you watch it. But that is the story of Father Flanagan, and it was quite a famous film of its time.
It was filmed in the village of Boys Town. The people from Hollywood heard about Father and came to visit, and they made it an A-level movie. They had 2 biggest movie stars in Hollywood, Spencer Tracy and Mickey Rooney star in it. And Spencer Tracy won the Academy Award for Best Actor for portraying Father Flanagan. And he gave it to Father Flanagan, the Oscar, and it sat on his desk for 10 years.
Wow.
And it's really worn now. And now it's sitting in our museum at Boys Town. And it's on display for visitors to come and see. But that movie helped to inspire people around the world to create other Boys Towns. And there's around 89 different Boys Towns now around the world inspired by the community of Boys Town.
But what a lovely gesture from Spencer Tracy to give his Oscar, which is hard got, to Father Flanagan. It kind of went full circle. What Father Flanagan did for others, this was a lovely gesture from him. We're going to come back to you, Tom, in a few moments, because we could ask the 3 boys to go away, right? and talk to you all night. But we will come back to you because there is more news that we can bring up to date. Kieran, back to yourself. I know that you're an award-winning photographer, and if you haven't seen Kieran's work, you have to look at it. His portraits, photography is second to none. But talk to us a little bit about the charity that you set up. Tell us a little bit about that.
I was hoping after that interesting story you wouldn't go to me next.
Well,
there
was only one person we were going to go to. Like, who's going to
I've spoken to some of the guys here beforehand. I do think I'm in the wrong room. I suppose I am here because I'm an accidental charity founder. We have a charity called Our Shoes. We run a program every year for the last 6 years. I'm delighted to say the school has taken part in it, and it's one of the bigger schools over the last couple of years. We collect what we call pre-loved or pre-used sports shoes from schools in every county in Ireland. You get a lot of cases that I know my own kids. Sports shoes cost anything from 40 up to 120 quid for basic enough shoes for sports. They go to 12 maybe weeks training for soccer, rugby, whatever it is. I know my own son has gone from a size 5 to a 9 in the last 14 months, which is me over in the expensive wall. And they're not getting the wear out of the shoes because shoes are made better and better and stronger. So we realised charity shops won't take them. They are what goes into making a pair of, if you have a pair of runners or sports shoes on you, they have 14 different polymers or plastics in them. They take 15 kilos of carbon to make them, and they cannot be reused. Like, we've had Decathlon come and talk to us, and they're trying to see how can we, they're trying to see if they could break them down and make them into astro pitches, or there must be something you can do with them. There isn't. They have to go to landfill. So we had this thinking, okay, these shoes everyone has them under the stairs or up in the attic, bags of them. They don't know what to do with them. So we collect them through primary schools and secondary schools, mainly through TY, and we ship them out to kids in the townships of Southern Africa, where they are, some cases they just provide basic footwear, in other cases they're life-changing. It gets them access to programs.
Logistically, Kieran, how does that work? So Summerhill College, all the students will bring in shoes from themselves or parents or neighbours or whatever else?
As I
so
said,
you have a whole big bags of shoes.
As I said, this started out back, as I said, I work for a telecoms business for one of the day jobs, and it's one of the shareholders is a South African man, and we were over at a telecoms conference, and we visited, we were in Cape Town, and we'd been out the night before, and we'd sponsored this program in one of the big townships over there. And there's a very big world famous cricket star called Gary Kirsten, and my shareholder had donated money to it every year just to bring in, it's something like the Gaelic do in some of the urban areas. They bring in sports to schools to give kids some one-on-one. So we visited that, and I suppose it was kind of, you don't have many experiences in life that just make you do a double take, and I'd never been, you're talking about a place that had a population of 1.5 million people. They're called temporary settlements because the South African government doesn't allow water or electricity to be put into them, because if they do, they have to provide them with facilities. So you you have these corrugated huts with maybe 40, 50 people living in them, and you can drive through them for 20 minutes, and it's just a sea of these huts. And if you can imagine, 40 degrees, it was close on 40 when we were there, but it also dips to -10 in the winter, so you literally couldn't have worse buildings. But I could see, I have kids playing sport, and there was all these kids in the program, and they were having great fun playing cricket, but we just noticed when we were coming back that they had no shoes. And it seemed such a basic right, and like there wasn't a blade of grass in these places. There's nothing green. It's just not a place you want to be, and certainly if you're there to have no footwear. So we got talking on the way home, and he said, "I wonder could we get them some shoes?" And we called into a shop in Cape Town. They're quite expensive, and he lives in Surrey in London. He said, "Well, I can't get them shoes over there," but he'd been over to Sligo. He said, "You seem pretty set up over there. Will you approach some of the local schools?"
Okay.
And I thought, okay, we'll give it a go. So we just came up with the Facebook page, and we just tried a couple of national schools. I took a week off and printed out some leaflets and sent them out to the top 40 schools in Sligo.
And what impact has that had on the schools over there? And by the way, and I'll ask you a second question as well, whether by accident or design, you're actually helping the environment as well by talking about what you were.
Well, absolutely, because you take these shoes out of circulation. So we're probably in the next month going to hit 100,000 pairs of shoes that have been sent over to. We collect them deep. We have some backers that you just couldn't get if you're trying to do something commercially. We have DPD collect with the first charity they've taken on in 5 years. They'll collect from every national school or anywhere in Ireland for me for free for a month. We have Smurfit Kappa produce branded heavy boxes for shipping out. Munster Rugby's been involved. Like we have, if you're trying to do this commercially, you wouldn't. People just like this project because we don't take money. We have some corporate donors that help fund little bits, but it's literally facilitating the gift of a shoe from one child to another that's outgrown them.
Are you proud of yourself for setting that up?
I suppose you don't, like the guys who you decided to be a doctor, decided in the military, you don't, like I said, I thought this was a one-off. We sent out the 40 packs to Sligo shoes at schools. We taught maybe 500 pairs of shoes. I remember it was -4 and we're driving around parts of Sligo I didn't know exist. I rented a white van, skidding around the roads out here in Ballymote, and we were being brought into schools, and I just thought we'd be collecting bin bags at the door, and we're brought into Hollis and come talk to assemblies, and there's 8 panels by 30 of artworks done that the schools really shoehorned it into the curriculum, and
Pardon the pun?
Yeah, they literally they talked about everything from environmentalism. They use it for green flags. They talk about to bring Africa into the curriculum, but straight down the middle, and fair play to Irish teachers, they will literally talk about entitlement. They'll go, "You're worried that you don't have the latest PSP," and I have pictures of guys with car tires cut up with wearing the feet because they don't get access to school without shoes. So they get a uniform, but they don't get shoes. And so the difference between 6 out of every 10 kids in a township that don't go to school end up in a gang.
So, whether by accident, with the best will in the world, the greatest ideas are sometimes the simplest ideas, and that's exactly what has happened to yourself. Brian, I'm going to come to you. Thank you, Kieran. I'm going to come to you. Went to Summerhill. You left Summerhill, and you didn't necessarily go straight into the Defence Forces. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, that's right, Robert. I kind of fell upon the Defence Force was never on my radar.
Okay.
Right, I wasn't that guy who played soldiers as a kid, watched the movies. There's kids that go to career fairs, and there's kids know more about the weapons than I do, because some guys are just army mad. I wasn't that guy. I left Summerhill. I spent a number of years in America and England, working sports jobs, really coaching children, working a lot with the FAI, gym instruction, this kind of stuff. I craved a bit of stability, really. I was over back to America in different places, and you were here, you were there, you were everywhere. So I met a few guys I went to Summerhill with, and they were in the Defence Forces, and they said, throw in an application and see what you think. And I joined up, the 10th of December 2007, I joined up on an initial 2-week trial period. I said to the sports shop I was managing at the time, I said, look, I'm going to take 2 weeks off, I'm going to the Defence Forces, just going to try it out for 2 weeks, see what it's about. And I went back for the Christmas period, and I joined, and I never looked back.
What was it, Brian? What was it that just lit that fire in you?
Yeah, well, I was always meant to be a soldier, really. If I look back at myself, I love sport, and sport plays a huge part in Defence Forces.
Okay.
Finner Camp up there is as close to Summerhill College as you get for a grown man. You go in there and all the guys you went to school with are there, and there's slagging and there's joking, and then they go to work and they do their bits and pieces, and at lunchtime we might have a game of football, and you go for lunch together like you would in the cafeteria like you would in Summerhill, and no cream buns have been thrown, but you would have had a, you know, I loved it. I loved the camaraderie. I loved the everything that went with it. I loved being outdoors. I loved being active. So I never looked back. I planned on doing 5 years. I said, I'll just do 5 years. I'll do an overseas mission. I get overseas experience. I come back, I'll buy a little house, and then I'll spread my wings. And I'm 19 years, and I tell you, they'll drag me out of it. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So some of the students are looking in at this now, say for example at the moment, and thinking, well, that sounds like me, right? It was mentioned earlier on, I think it was with you, Conor, possibly, that men mature later than girls. That is so true. It really is.
100%.
So do you think the fact that you didn't go straight into the army, that you went in that little bit later, that you were maybe more focused, and then were you focused to kind of rise through the ranks early, or were you just happy to be? What was your intentions at the time?
Yeah, maybe I joined at 24, which at the time was the cut-off. 25 was the cut-off, so maybe I was a bit mature, so I was ready to step up through the ranks quite quickly. But I don't know. I was the same character probably at 17 and I was at 24.
Yeah.
I like to think that if I joined at 18 straight from school, I would have been the same character. But I don't know. I don't know.
Explain the ranks just for those that don't know. So you went in as a private, is it? Or?
Yeah. So,
Okay.
so I'm happy to use this as a careers talk if needs be. But the virtues of joining the Defence Forces. So there's 3 streams you can join the Defence Forces. People usually don't realise, and I didn't realise when I joined. You can join as a direct entrance. So we take doctors if you're qualified, and so we take priests. We take different people directly in. Then we take enlisted personnel who need no educational requirements, and you become a private soldier, or you come into a cadetship. And if you take a cadetship, they'll put you through college. They'll pay your college, and you come out as an officer. I didn't. I joined enlisted, became a trooper actually in Longford Barracks. Did a couple of years, got promoted a couple of times through the enlisted ranks, and then was afforded the opportunity to move across to the commission ranks. So that was a rare enough opportunity. It was coming up once in every 10 years. So I was lucky enough that I was in during a period when that came up, and I got commissioned in 2019. So now I'm on the commission ranks and moving up that way.
And you've been part of the UN previous to this as well, have you?
Yeah, I have 4 overseas missions. I'll just caveat something before I talk about my own overseas service. The Irish Defence Forces have been overseas for 67 years continuously. All right, we've the longest overseas service, unbroken UN service of any nation in the world is provided by the Irish. The Irish are excellent peacekeepers. Our culture.
Why?
Well, a myriad of reasons why. We give empathy well. We feel for people. We're generous with our time and with our equipment. We care for people. We were never the oppressor, so people relate to us. We're well liked. We do well in overseas environments. So the Defence Forces have a very strong reputation in UN circles. We haven't huge numbers, but we do a good job wherever we go. And one other thing I want to say on UN service is we've lost 88 troops in UN service overseas, and one of them was an ex-student at Summerhill, and it's worth mentioning Mannix Armstrong lost his life in 1989, roadside bomb in Lebanon. So people have given far more greater sacrifice than I have overseas.
And that is the ultimate sacrifice, to give your life in trying to broker peace. But apart from that as well, there is a strong tradition from Summerhill of people that have joined the Defence Forces in whatever field.
Yeah, we have a huge alumni from Summerhill who've taken roles in Defence Forces. Andy Confeder, Johnny Martin, Barry Dolan, there's any amount who've come up and done huge, Gerald Grady, huge overseas service.
Paul Keys.
Paul Keys, yeah. I'm leaving loads out, so I won't name it.
We'll stop there because we're going to upset someone. There's someone screaming down there, oh, he was there.
Yeah, for sure.
But so just before I get to Conor here, Brian, if you wouldn't mind, so there's a student of Summerhill, or maybe the child of a past pupil that's looking at this, in one sentence, if you can, it's very difficult. Why should they join the Defence Forces?
Well, I won't be able to give you in one sentence, but I'll keep it quite brief. People have an impression of the Defence Forces, what we are and what we do, and the reality is totally different. if you want to join the Defence Force, and I tell the kids this every time, if you want to join the Defence Forces and fast rope out of a helicopter and kick indoors and blow up buildings, you can do that. We have those guys and we need those people. But we also have a full support of every other job. If you come take Finner Camp for example, we have military policemen, we have medics, we have cooks, we have gym instructors, we have mechanics, we have drivers, we have air traffic controllers inside our camp. If you want a career not to kick indoors and fire a weapon, we have everything else. We have a barber. If you want to do it, you can do it through the Defence Forces, and they will qualify you. You don't have to come in as a qualified heavy plant mechanic. You will join in as a recruit, you will become a private soldier, and they will train you all the way through. You will get your degree, you'll get your master's. You want to go back and do your leaving cert, you can go back and do your leaving cert again, all paid by the Defence Forces. The options, the possibilities for a young, motivated person in the Defence Forces are massive to go down any single route you want to go down.
Brian, thank you. That couldn't have put that. That was really well put together, and thank you for that. Conor, really good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you, Robbie.
and good to see you back in Ireland.
Yeah,
and you're now
great
based
to be back.
Yeah, you're now based in Charlestown, but you're living in Sligo, Ross's Point, I think.
Yeah,
the home
village.
state.
Yeah, we just had a baby there, so
You did.
yeah.
So I
Zero
got the other day
sleep.
walking with the baby
Yeah.
in the little sling.
It's the only way she'll see.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Look at me, I have a child. But your story is your story is really fascinating. Not taking anything away from the other contributors here, but you left Summerhill and you went studying engineering. Isn't that correct to start off with? Because your late father Tom has had which is now still going, a very successful business here.
And yeah, I guess it always made sense for me to do engineering and just to follow in his footsteps. And I think there was probably subconsciously maybe slightly pushed in that direction. And upon reflection, it was absolutely an insane decision for me to even go down to Galway and entertain doing civil engineering. I didn't enjoy it. Every time I go into lectures, it was just everything was friction. There was no enjoyment. I was a lovely class or whatever, but maybe similar to Brian, like I think you have to take some turns in your life to understand and what you really appreciate. And clearly you love what you're doing, 19 years. And I think it was after, once I picked something that I really didn't enjoy.
Can I just stop you there for 1 second?
Yeah.
Because I think what's really interesting is that an awful lot of the boys, and the Leaving Cert is happening now very, very soon.
Yeah.
So a lot of the students from here will be heading off to third level college.
Yeah.
Some may not, some will.
Yeah.
But that was a very brave decision from you 6 months in to say, I'm not happy. And maybe not every student does that. What would you say to that student that isn't happy, having started third level in whatever choice they've done?
I think they have to accept that, like in any given class year, it's so difficult for people to make that decision, such big decisions at that young age. And I think it's really important, obviously to give something a go. I felt I entertained engineering for long enough. I felt that I triangulated my opinions. I spoke to engineers at different stages of their career and different areas that I could go into, and just kept on. I'd almost convinced myself before that this was the career for me, and then actually once I was in it, I was then able to realize that actually no, this is definitely not.
So you took a left turn.
Took a total left turn.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, and I was lucky enough actually because when I got out of it, I had the chance then to kind of have my own gap year in Sligo, and I think that the beauty of what Sligo has to offer. And I think you always have to look at like the unfair advantages in your life. You always complain about the disadvantages of whatever, being from the west of Ireland or not having the same exposure to certain things that people in, Dublin or whatever might have. We've got great communities here and really good community groups, Robbie. And I was able to do, volunteer work in different organizations. And the agenda there really was to understand, like, is this something that I'll enjoy? Does this come kind of relatively naturally? Is it something that I'm happy to get out of bed to do, that I'm not kind of, like going into a lecture in engineering, which I absolutely hated. I know what I hate, so what's good. And I enjoyed it. So I guess I made a kind of vague decision that kind of into, perhaps get energy from, helping people in some way. And then, I guess the rest of my career kind of fostered on from there.
So I want to fast track you forward. So you go to college and then you qualify as a GP. Well, it was you got you studied medicine and you qualified in that, and then
Yeah.
you decide what you want to do.
Yeah.
And you did. But I want to fast track you even further, because for me and for a lot of people that will be listening in, the most fascinating part of your life so far, apart from your beautiful child, is the time that you spent with Médecins Sans Frontières.
Yeah.
And you, for those, maybe for those that don't know who they are, can you maybe share with us what they do and where they go and what it entails?
Yeah, so Médecins Sans Frontières are Doctors Without Borders. So they're a NGO or non-governmental organisation. So they're not aligned to any political cause or government or any particular agenda. And in fact, they kind of pride themselves that their neutrality is kind of their defence. So if we set up clinic, for example, when we're in Iraq or any kind of maybe difficult area, we wouldn't necessarily have any guards on our gates of the clinic. Our neutrality and our medicine and our stethoscope is kind of what protects us from attack and from either side. And I think it served the organisation quite well since the 70s. It was set up during the Biafra Wars, the war in Nigeria, with a combination of journalists and doctors kind of getting together and calling out kind of the atrocities that were going on at the time. So there's a whole terminage or narrative piece that comes with MSF, being able to document and explain kind of the things that you see in the environment that you're in, and that's very much part of the job as well.
So you were reared in one of the most beautiful parts in the world, in my opinion, and you had all the trappings of whatever it is that you wanted to do, and you turn around one day and you say, I want to go to the front line. Why? Yeah,
I just feel like we're I don't know, well, life expectancy in Ireland is what, 80 to 90 years, and maybe it's trying to push that a bit at times, but I just feel that we're on this planet for such a short space of time, and we have such opportunities open to us to make the most of that 80 or 90 years on the planet, and just being able to make the most of it for me is a huge part of just living. And in terms of the theme of tonight and the kind of the community service, there's a lot that you get back from that, Robbie, from a kind of a selfish point of view. You meet amazing people, you get energy from the work that you do. The network, you get confidence, there's a leadership aspect of it, and all of that just kind of serves you for the rest of your life as well.
So just give us, if you wouldn't mind,
yeah,
a few examples of maybe where you were and maybe some moments you thought, oh, have I made the right decision here? And one in particular that you shared with me.
Oh, yeah.
But just literally wherever there was a conflict, you and your colleagues were there.
Yeah, I guess so I used to journal, so they were very, very intense.
Journal's very important to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess my first deployment was in kind of northern Greece, Macedonia, in various refugee camps, and at times incredibly hostile environments with riots kind of very, very frequently. And you're trying to kind of keep your team together to provide healthcare in the midst of absolute kind of chaos and pandemonium. And then after that was search and rescue in the Mediterranean, often doing a rescue, perhaps with an AK-47 being pointed at you.
Maybe you might
with an itchy trigger finger.
You can't just say that and not explain what that was actually about. Were you carrying in a patient?
Yeah, so just kind of when you're rescuing, so we'd have a rescue team who do the rescue, and you're doing the medicine part, perhaps the resuscitation. And I remember when one of our rescue team were pulling a patient who was unconscious at the time from a boat, with a person from a militia close by. Just for some reason they had some grapple with the boat from the people that we were rescuing, and kind of shouting threatening language and things like that, and with a gun kind of pointed towards us in our tiny little kind of RNLI type boat. At times it was quite, you would perhaps question, because you're in such a vulnerable position, you've no way of nothing of defense. It's all on that other person, and you're just kind of, it's up to him really whether. So
it's fair to say, Conor, and Brian, you're probably the same as well. You probably see the worst of what humanity can do up front and personal. Do you ever, and I'll ask the same to you just after, Conor, do you ever think to yourself, why? What's the point? Why do they do this? I mean, you're trying to save little kids that are totally innocent, and how do you kind of how do you deal with that, and how do you kind of remain sane in those situations?
Yeah, it's difficult. I think I always like looking the positivity. I always look at the positive side, and I always look in. There is always a positive side in the person who's there with you, even if they're, perhaps threatening or whatever. But there is. I've always probably had that positive outlook that perhaps don't kind of take a lot of that on my shoulders. And if I do, I do find like reflection and perhaps like writing, journaling and things like that hugely beneficial as a way of kind of de-stressing, kind of managing some of those really, really intense emotions. Because, for example, when we were doing a rescue, we could be up for maybe 96 hours with maybe 1,000 people on a boat. You might be the only medic, you might have 2 or 3 nurses, and you might have maybe 40 people with hypothermia. And it was a really, really challenging situation. But I think early on in my life, perhaps even I think in my 4th or 5th year, that was a habit that I got into in Summerhill, and I found that really beneficial. I think it's something that's really stayed with me, that ability to kind of reflect and process and try and understand. And it is fascinating when you look back on.
But the training you got before that, you're not just sent out there. Like, there is training and there is counselling as well, which is really important to help you deal with those situations.
Oh, absolutely, Robbie. I found it, certainly the first mission or 2 or deployment was quite difficult. But I think as things went on, I used to, actually get to know the psychology team and the counselling team before I'd even go out, and kind of like almost, like getting that kind of like in sports, like there's a prehab, but then it's almost like a kind of a pre kind of counselling. Because I find that when you're at your lowest ebb, Robbie, it's really difficult to reach out, to speak to people, and trying to make a relationship at that stage is literally the worst possible time. So I just found it much easier to do it before I'd even go out, So it really made that kind of ability for me to kind of offload, de-stress, decompress, way more. Say quicker is probably the wrong word, but like it's certainly easier,
Brian, can I ask you, if you don't mind? I know there are certain things you can and certain things you can't talk about with the position that you hold in the Defence Forces, but you must have been wondering at times when you'd be out, wherever around the world that you were in Chad and you were in other places with really tricky situations, wondering why. It must be frustrating.
Yeah, well,
and I know you're there to do a job, but sometimes.
Yeah, and that's maybe where we have our strength. I mean, we're not there to judge what enemies. Mistakes people have made in the past is trying to figure people out, and trying to second guess why people are doing things. People have their reasons. Everybody has their reasons. To try and understand someone else's culture is impossible. You can read what you want, unless you're from that area and live the life that person has. You can't put yourself in his shoes. All you do is deal with situations in front of you. And I'm sure Connor's trained. We're trained for every single scenario. When you deploy with the Defence Forces, your left and right of arc are so tight. You know what you can do and what you can't do in every single situation. But I certainly wouldn't be wasting my time and energy wondering why someone's doing what they're doing. I'm there to do a job. You're there on the invitation of the host nation. They want you to do X, Y, and Z. You're going to do X, Y, and Z, regardless of the motivation of the other side. That's for someone far more intellectual than me to try and figure out why their motives are out there.
All right. Well, we are getting near the end of this evening, but I do want to come back to you, Tom, if that's okay. And I'd like to maybe, if we can update people that are here and that are looking in. So, Father Flanagan, you had mentioned earlier on that he came back to Ireland and had reunions. He was very friendly with Count John McCormack, who, for those of you who don't know, is from Athlone, I believe, originally, and was a very famous tenor, I think, and singer back in the 40s, or I can't remember when it was, but they were friends. But something has happened in the last numbers of weeks. Can you share that story with us?
The cause to make Father Flanagan a saint, the Catholic Church, is progressing. And just several weeks ago, Pope Leo declared him venerable, which is the second step. And now a miracle is needed for him to be called blessed, and then one more for sainthood. So the hard part, we believe, is almost over at this point, in that the Pope has said he could be considered to be a saint. And now we need 2 medical miracles for him to move forward. And so we're really excited, because it's a reflection on his work that he did in the creation of Boys Town and all the children he served. But it's mainly a reflection of his education that he learned here in Ireland, and the empathy he learned from his family and his schooling, especially at Summerhill College.
what would that mean to you and everybody back in Nebraska who are still, the 2 million people that you're helping, if Father Flanagan became a saint?
It would validate that the work he began over 100 years ago is continuing on, and it would help spread our message around the world, let more people know about his concepts of love and inclusion and acceptance is so important, and it's something, again, we've been doing for over 100 years. We hope to do more in the future, and so it would be a really exciting time. When it was announced in our village, we had no warning, so we were very excited when it happened.
And I didn't ask you this now, but it's just the question's just come in, so I apologise about the question I'm going to ask you. Is there any reference to Summerhill College in Nebraska when the Father Flanagan, have you referenced in the where you are currently?
We have a museum at Boys Town dedicated to Father Flanagan.
You can send stuff over.
And
students without a visa?
we have, it's mentioned that he went to Summerhill College. The patroness for Boys Town is the Immaculate Conception. That began with his childhood, and in Summerhill College is Immaculate Conception. So we continue that at Boys Town. That's the name of our chapel in the village of Boys Town, too. And he kept a very strong bond with his Irish heritage and his family. It was very important to him to keep that.
Two other things I want to very briefly get to, because I could literally talk to each and every one of you all night, but the two miracles, you explained a little bit earlier on that the miracles cannot be medical miracles. They can't, if someone goes to a doctor and gets that's not, it has to be, you pray. And there are a number of people who are currently praying to Father Flanagan for him, and just bring us up to date on that.
There are prayer groups around the world that are praying for Father Flanagan. There's been over 30 miracles that have possibly come in. They've been coming from Brazil and Ireland and Canada and across the United States. There are several new ones that have just come in recently that, God willing, maybe one of those might be. But it has to be a true medical miracle for it to take place. And if it were to take place, it would be astounding for that.
Father Flanagan family was so important to him. And he was from a very close family. And as you mentioned, there was 11. There was a mum and a dad. There was an age difference between the mum and the dad. They were renting the land off the landlord. And then the dad got sick at the age of 70-something. Explain what happened then.
His dad was a herdsman for the landlord, and they were evicted off their property. His dad couldn't work anymore. And at that point, the family said, we want to stay together. So the entire family immigrated to Omaha, Nebraska. And they lived there, and they came out to help Father Flanagan run the village of Boys Town and keep it operating. And that's, we talk about family love at Boys Town. It goes back to his family, and it was his Irish heritage, and that's what he often said. He used that. And eventually, President Franklin Roosevelt said America needed 49 more Father Flanagans, one for every state and territory. So many of the concepts in America we take for granted in child care was devised by Father Flanagan at Boys Town, and it's based on his Irish culture.
For the current students of Summerhill and for the past pupils of Summerhill who maybe are now starting to realise who Father Flanagan was, what would you say to them?
We have many people visit the village, and their comments are, look at the power of one individual. He went out when no one else was helping these children and began a program and impacted the lives of children around the world, continues on today. So it just shows one person stepping forward and helping can change the lives of many people.
So if Father Flanagan becomes a saint, that will happen in the Vatican. You won't be able to move for Summerhill students. We'll all be out, by the way. We have to celebrate that. I know that there's certainly some teachers and students that are already looking at flights. But when is that likely, if at all, to happen?
It could be in another 10 years. It could be 100 years. It's the will of God if he's declared a saint.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing the story of Father Flanagan. Keir, back to you. We're going to start wrapping it up here now, and I want you to be really careful with the answer here now. But let's talk a little bit about maybe the students of today, and maybe what advice that you have done so much so far and continue to do and continue to excel, which is great in all your different strands of what you're doing. What would you say to the students that are in Summerhill today? What advice would you give them now that you're that little bit more mature, allegedly?
I suppose it's a very different time, a lot of different challenges than when we were coming out of here. I think people had, you guys moved around a little bit, but a lot of people set out to have a career, and you generally tended to stay roughly somewhat around that. I don't think that's going to be the future. I think people are going to be an awful lot more fluid. From talking to a lot of young people, their mindset's different. Their idea of doing the same thing for 40 years doesn't seem to register with them. But as technology moves on, we're at the very, very early stages of AI and how that's going to progress. I think people will be kind of surfing waves and trends more. And the kids have an awful lot more ability, a lot more confidence now, and they're more willing to back themselves, I suppose, from the American phrase, and just be open to, you know, if you get your grounding right, and you know, you would ask me your advice to myself back in Summerhill, you know, what would I say to myself, and you know, you think back and you come here for an education, and you get that, you know, there's some very...
That's not what you said to me.
No, well,
Say what you said to me when I asked you that question.
You do get your education,
yes, fine, but when I said to you, what advice would you give yourself back in the day, please share what you said.
Oh, don't get caught.
Don't get caught.
I think that always applies. But, you know, you were also asking me, what would you say back to yourself?
Yeah.
And I was thinking, God, what do I have something sanitized it? And it was like, maybe don't be such a messer when I was younger. And then I thought about that today driving in, and I was thinking, that's not great advice at all, because if you're a teenager and you're going to school and you can't be messing and having fun, like I said, if you asked you guys to think back to your top 5 memories of Summerhill, there wouldn't be that many assemblies or the Mohineelock, or, you know, it's crack, it's fun, and it's the friends that you make. And that bond, when you're in 1,000 students from all walks of life, like there'll be people, you know, in the school today that, you know, it's 1,100, there'll be, some of them will go on to be CEOs, some of them will probably go to jail. You know, and there mightn't even be a mutually exclusive group, but you're immersed in a cohort of people that it really rounds you for life. And you get to read people, and you do get to make friends. And by the messing and having fun, that's how you build it. You learn boundaries, and you learn how to make bonds.
Something to talk about at the reunions when you have them of 10, 20, 30, 40 years.
Absolutely. So it's just enjoy your time, have some fun, get your exams
are
where you
going
can.
mad down here. Would you please say try and learn something?
That comes at a given. Summerhill doesn't let you out without pushing you hard on that. But enjoy it, and you get a good grounding for life, and you're part of a good network.
Aileen will be talking later on. She wants you to take a class from going forward. Brian, can I just what's happened? It's funny Kieran mentioned AI there, and where all of that is going and stuff like that. We've noticed in the last numbers of years that a lot of students have kind of gone down the route of maybe working in front of computers the whole time. That seems to have flipped on its head a little bit recently, and an awful lot of students are now going back into the trades. There's marvellous training within the army. You'd mentioned earlier. Have you noticed that where students are kind of saying, well, hang on a second, I don't want to be a word processor anymore. I actually want to be an electrician. I want to be an engineer. I want to be a painter. I want whatever. Yeah, that's what the money is, because they're so hard got.
We run trainee technician schemes, so we take a private soldier and they become a mechanic or a painter or a carpenter or an electrician or artist or whatever they want to be, and the competition for them is huge now.
Okay.
Because guys know when they join, you can do 5 years, you can take a 5-year leave of absence, you get your qualification and head away, and it'll work with you worldwide. Yeah. We've noticed the competition for those places is getting fierce now for these young guys coming through, and it's a really worthwhile avenue. If you're unsure, maybe you're not too sure what you want to do next year or two, and I'm more than happy for the school to pass on my details if anybody is interested, because I'm passionate. There's a large cohort of people in this country would benefit from looking at the Defence Force route, because you can go anywhere with it, and these qualifications will last you for the rest of your life, all paid for.
Brian, your passion comes across very strongly, and it's very applaudable, I have to say. What advice would you give to either yourself if you were a student here, or to the students today?
Yeah, well, I'm a firm believer that you are who you are because you made the choices you made, and I wouldn't want to change anything that I've done. But I suppose I would have joined earlier, which is, you know, I did my couple of years of J1s and different stuff and living life and really enjoying it. I should have joined immediately from leaving, done a couple of years, taken a 5-year leave of absence, done the J1 stuff at that point, and then come back, because I missed out on some good trips, Kosovo, Liberia, different places that I'm jealous to see these guys have done. So that my advice to me would have been, ignore the football, go off, join the Defence Forces, and then go play your football after that.
Connor, what advice would you give to your younger self? Not that you're that old, of course.
I'm going to take a bit of a leaf from Kieran and Brian's book, and Kieran was mentioning about the...
Are you sure you want to do that?
Well, no, but there's a lot of truth in what he said. Like, he talked about the diversity of Summerhill, and I've mentioned about unfair advantages, and I think the diversity of this school compared to perhaps maybe other fee-paying schools, that having that environment of every part of society is the most grounding experience. And I guess from my personal experience, being able to go on the wards, speak to people, and that was never a problem. I was never kind of out of my depth, whereas perhaps some of my colleagues would have been, because they perhaps were the top 1% or whatever their entire lives. So that is a massive advantage, and enjoy it obviously with your friends as well. Could I have made better decisions sooner? I'd say definitely, Robbie, and I probably could have made better decisions maybe if I was a bit, with the humility. So if I'd perhaps less of an ego at that age, and perhaps like opened myself up to different thoughts and opinions and what other people were saying. And I think from that, for me, comes from, understanding the concept of like my ego or my perception of the world that I see. Like the world revolves around me, and for you, the world revolves around you. That's your perception. But once I learned to put myself in your shoes, Robbie, or the patient's shoes in front of me, that absolutely gave me a unique advantage. And I know that's an advantage not just in medicine or health, but in every aspect of life, perhaps marketing or business, being able to see what it's like in someone's position, and what someone else does and what motivates them. And it allows you to make better decisions for your life as well as theirs too. So to get from point A to point B, I'd say that would be the one thing, Robbie.
Before we say goodbye, is there anything any of you would like to add that maybe we haven't touched on briefly? Is there anything that anybody would like to add that would be of relevance to what we've been speaking about tonight? Tom, have you anything you'd like to add?
I just want to thank you for allowing me to be here and talk about Father Flanagan in his ministry, and again, look at one person, what they can do in changing the lives of other people. Father Flanagan called people out to do that, and I think what he learned that at Summerhill College.
Okay, Kieran.
No, I'm sorry, not really. I suppose apart from, we talked about entitlement, and when you go around some of these schools in South Africa and you see the commonality is the universal, the 7 or 8-year-old playing football, the same smiles, but it's the opportunity in the future ahead of them is totally different. So there's a lot of real life, and we've won it over here. We have such entitlement, and when you come here to see the leap in the facilities, there's always good educational infrastructure, but the leap in facilities that they have, embrace it, enjoy it, and don't take it for granted.
Brian, one of the comments you mentioned earlier on was that we mentioned the old building, and you said that maybe it didn't do a lot of us any harm back. It certainly didn't do us any harm. Maybe you think it's somewhat easier now these days, but I thought that was a very interesting point, one of the many interesting points that you made along with everybody else. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
No, I'd just like to thank you. I'm delighted to be here. I love coming back to Summerhill, and I congratulate the staff here and what they've done with the school. And one thing I do notice when I come here, the facilities are better, everything is better, but the spirit is still the same. I give the career talks, and the slagging I get from the young guy is the same as what was being given out 20 years ago. So
maybe the same what you gave to the
more than likely. So yeah. It's important to keep that spirit going, because you need a bit of madness. All right. So improve the facilities all you want and maintain the spirit that the school has. And
I think there is that balance there, though. Still, isn't there? There is that balance still of the, the facilities have been improved, but there is still that inherent kind of Summerhill spirit amongst everybody. Conor, anything you want to add that we didn't touch on that you'd like to maybe say? Or
I don't know. I mean, it's hard to. I mean, it's a great point about the spirit of Summerhill, and that's such a great sense of pride. And when you meet people across the world who went to Summerhill and being able to relate to them on that, it kind of gives you that real proper bond. I guess the points I'd point or make are that, like, again, we live in such a beautiful part of the world, and there's so many opportunities that when you realize when you leave Sligo that kids have at that age that other kids necessarily don't. And just probably taking time out to reflect on, what's really important to you in life at a young age, I think is really important too, or get in that process of understanding what your values, what your drivers are, and what motivates you. Things change a lot from 15 years to 16 to 17 to 18, but that's fine, and I accept that. But it's also just getting in the process of understanding it, because once you understand yourself a lot better at that age, it allows you to get to where you want to be a lot quicker. And yeah, I guess if anyone ever wants to talk about career and health, I'm always happy to talk about it too.
Well, what a great way to sign off this evening. I'd like to thank everyone for either looking in or being here this evening. Thanks to Kenny and his team, and to Ailing and all the staff and the board of management here at Summerhill. I hope you got something from this evening. I certainly did, and we look forward to realising our potential number 8, and who knows who could be sitting here for that. Thank you and good evening.